Good morning. Welcome to the Boise Unitarian Universalist Fellowship's Zoom service. We're so glad that you have joined us this morning. I am the Reverend Sarah Lawal, and it is my great honor to serve this beloved community. I want to take a moment to especially welcome all of the newcomers who are joining us this morning. Whether it's your first, second, or third time and you're just checking us out, we're so glad that you've taken the time to seek out community in these virtual months and weeks. And we hope that you'll fill out our newcomer form so that we can get to know you and share with you more about what is happening in our fellowship. As so many of you know, there is a lot happening in our fellowship, many ways to connect with one another and to meet newcomers. I want to share with you a few highlights, particularly for our newcomers. We are in the midst of running our Inquirers series. This is a series of 5 sessions designed to introduce you to our congregation and Unitarian Universalism and help you make connections with other newcomers. So that session will meet today after services in their own breakout room. We also have been going with our connection dinners. These are our small group dinners that are leading us up into our annual giving drive. And if you sign up for a connection dinner, you get this awesome gift bag with soup mix of your choice that you can cook for your dinner. You get to have a lovely conversation and connection time with a small group of members and friends. There are plenty of spaces available for our March dinners, so we really hope that you'll take a moment to sign up. We've had such success with them already, and I'm really looking forward to hosting my dinner tonight, so I'll see some of you this evening. Stay tuned right after worship, because if you bought a raffle ticket for this beautiful quilt that's behind me, we are going to draw the winner today. So you may be the winner of that raffle ticket. Thank you to all of you who supported this wonderful, beautiful raffle, because of course we all want to win that quilt, myself included. We raised almost $1,000 in the raffle, and that's really spectacular. The quilt raffle funds in particular go to help in our advertising efforts in the community with advertising on Boise State Public Radio and whatnot. So please stay tuned for that. As we gather together each week, even virtually, we want to acknowledge that the land upon which our church and homes exist is the ancestral land stolen from the Shoshone, Bannock, Paiute, and Nez Perce, and many other tribes who inhabited a vast region, including much of Idaho, before they were rounded up and forced to leave. This land has a long history, long before colonization. And we acknowledge that our presence here today is founded on the exclusions and erasures of many Indigenous people. It is with this acknowledgement that we wish to demonstrate our commitment to beginning the process of working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. Many Native peoples live among us today, and we honor their connection to the land. We support their right to sovereignty. In an effort for us to live into the words of this land acknowledgement and beyond the mere words of acknowledgement, our racial justice team is putting together a beautiful 3-part series, a convening we're calling Toward Right Relations with Indigenous Communities. We invite you to be part of that series to dive deep into what it will take for us as a community to begin to deepen the work of right relationship and accountability with our Indigenous neighbors. All of the details for that, the first session is next Monday, March 8th, a week from tomorrow at 7 p.m. And all of the details can be found on our website at boiseuu.org. We'll hope you join us for that really important special event. As we name these truths, we recognize that these are hard truths. And we name them so that we remind ourselves to move through the world, bringing justice in every way that we can, listening to the truths spoken by Native peoples, and making space for them to re-inhabit this place, giving them back the resources they need to heal their communities. Today's service closes out this month's spiritual theme, of beloved community. And we're inviting everyone in this fellowship to join us in naming and claiming the commitments we will make toward building the beloved community among ourselves and out in the wider world. Together with our racial justice ministry team, today kicks off our Living the Eighth initiative as we celebrate the adoption of the eighth principle that happened back in December of 2019, and ask ourselves, how will we continue to live into this radical invitation of spiritual wholeness through our creation of anti-racist, anti-oppressive, multicultural, beloved community in our midst? It's an exciting prospect just to think about. So much wonderful work has already occurred in our fellowship, especially over this past year, as we all have deepened our understanding and reawakened to this moment of cultural reckoning. We've been holding weekly wake-up coffee circle reflections, workshops, reading books. We've offered worship services and are offering a much wider array of diverse voices in our stories and music and liturgy. Our board has brought a beautiful anti-racist lens to reimagining some of our governance structures. And we're about to convene this three-part series to explore deepening right relationships with Indigenous communities and moving beyond the mere words of our land acknowledgement. It's truly amazing all that has transpired. And we know that there are more opportunities out there, more ideas out there, and we want to capture them and prioritize them as commitments to living into this eighth principle. So after the service today, as part of a focused conversation in our breakout rooms, we're asking you to explore one particular area of congregational life, to name our strengths and some opportunities for deeper growth, and to envision some ideas that we might be able to live into and make real in the future. And we'll share specific details and instructions about that conversation after the service is over. I am so grateful to the dedicated work of our racial justice ministry team under the leadership of Eileen Oldag, Tom Neal, and Don Stepich, all of whom saw an opportunity to carry forward this transformational work within our fellowship. You will get to hear a bit from them today. And to help us call forth a vision for this work, a vision for a more beautiful world our hearts know is possible, we've woven in the inspirational words of inaugural poet Amanda Gorman and the poem she shared at the inauguration, "The Hill We Climb." Today, we are so blessed to have two young voices from our fellowship read her words. Thank you, Annabelle Jenkins and Veronica Richmond, for being part of today's service. There is so much possibility ahead of us on this hill we climb, friends. Let's embrace it together. I invite us all to take a breath together, to center yourself in this moment, in this time of connection, in this vision for beloved community. Knowing that as we breathe, we do so connected to one another. And we share the words of our opening poem this morning. I invite you to hear the thines and thous as expressed to beloved community itself. Thou art the song of my heart in the morning. Thou art the dawn of truth in my soul. Thou art the dew of the roses adorning. Thou art the woven whole. Thine is the grace to be steadfast in danger. Thine is the peace that none can destroy. Thine is the face of the need-driven stranger. Thine are the wings of joy. Thou art the deep, to the deep in me calling. Thou art a lamp where my feet shall tread. Thy way is steep past the peril of falling. Thou art my daily bread. Thine be the praise of my spirit uplifted. Thou art the sea to each flowing stream. Thine be the days that are gathered and sifted. Thou art the deathless dream.
I can almost see it, that dream I'm dreaming, but there's a voice inside my head saying, you'll never reach it. Every step I'm taking, every move I make feels lost with no direction. My faith is shaking, but I gotta keep trying. Gotta keep my head held high. There's always gonna be another mountain. I'm always gonna wanna make it move. Always gonna be an uphill battle. Sometimes I'm gonna have to lose. Ain't about how fast I get there. Ain't about what's waiting on the other side. It's the climb. The struggles I'm facing, the chances I'm taking, sometimes might knock me down, but no, I'm not breaking. I may not know it, but these are the moments that I'm gonna remember most. Yeah, just gotta keep going, and I've got to be strong. Just keep pushing on, 'cause there's always gonna be another mountain. I'm always gonna wanna make it move. Always gonna be an uphill battle. Sometimes I'm gonna have to lose. Ain't about how fast I get there. Ain't about what's waiting on the other side. It's the climb. There's always gonna be another mountain. I'm always gonna wanna make it move. Always gonna be an uphill battle. Sometimes I'm gonna have to lose. Ain't about how fast I get there. Ain't about what's waiting on the other side. It's the keep on moving, keep climbing, keep the faith, baby. It's all about the climb. Keep the faith, keep your
Thank you, Rachel. At this hour, in small towns and big cities, in living rooms and ornate sanctuaries, many of our sibling Unitarian Universalists are also lighting a flaming chalice, reminding us that we are part of a great community of faith. We invite a child to light our chalice, to remind us of the future for which we struggle and the hope of beloved community. As Sebastian Alhambra lights the chalice from their home, you are invited to light your chalice and then share in the chat where you have lit the flame this morning. May this dancing flame inspire us to fill our lives with the Unitarian Universalist ideals of love, justice, and truth. As we collectively light our chalices, we share with you this call to worship the first lines of Amanda Gorman's The Hill We Climb.
When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade?
The loss we carry, the sea we must wade.
We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace.
And the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. Come, let us worship together.
She's running it, I guess.
I invite everyone to cozy up for Time for All Ages this morning. Today we are talking about our 8th principle. This one isn't in the 7 principles song that we sing when we're together. 1, each person is important, 2, be kind in all you do. That's not in there because it's much newer than all the other ones. Our 8th principle asks us to work together against racism and oppression. Black Unitarian Universalists noticed that it was easy for many white UUs to practice the 7 principles, which ask us to be generous and helpful people, but never address racism and other unfair systems. So Paula Cole-Jones decided to write a new principle as a first step to change our focus to affirm Black lives. What for you is a first step, one example of a first step to fight against something unfair? This first step is different for everyone, and that's because we can only start exactly where we are, with the information and experiences we already have. And everyone has different experiences and information. From there, we can go get new ideas to understand our experiences and do a second step. In our story this morning, the first step to addressing racism is noticing when something doesn't feel right, when you feel uncomfortable, or the story that you hear doesn't make sense. Our story is Not My Idea by Anastasia Higginbottom. This is a book about whiteness. And it starts with the foreword. In 1993, Toni Morrison said about racism in America, "White people have a very, very serious problem, and they should start thinking about what they can do about it." She added, "Take me out of it." And those words, the author says, landed on me as a direct command. As it starts, the TV's on and the mom says, "Oh no, not again." You can see a gun on the TV. And the little girl turns and she says, "What, Mom? What not again?" When grown-ups try to hide scary things from kids, it's usually because they're scared too. The little girl says, "Who is that with their hands up? Why is that policeman screaming at him?" And then she hears on the TV, bang, 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 bang. You can see her hands are over her ears. She looks very scared. And Mom turns the TV off. They want to bury the truth. So Mom says, "You don't need to worry about this. You are safe. Understand?" She thinks, "No." Mom says, "Our family is kind to everyone. We don't see color." Does it look like that reassures the girl? Does it help her understand what happened on TV? Deep down, we all know color matters. Here she is drawing the gun in the hands, trying to figure it out. Skin color makes a difference in how the world sees you and in how you see the world. So they're going to the store, and the mom says, "I want to bring my aunt a gift. This will only take a minute." Skin color makes a difference in how much trouble seems to find you or let you be. And we're looking here, a security guard is watching suspiciously the little black boy instead of the little white girl. In stores, in cars, on sidewalks, at school, your skin color affects the most ordinary daily experiences, including which neighborhoods welcome you. This is a neighborhood with big yards and lots of greenery. We've got American flags and statues of Jesus. This is her aunt's neighborhood. Her aunt greets her and says, "I'm so glad you got here safely." The little girl says, "Why wouldn't we?" Aunt, "The protests." Uncle is over here. "They're blocking the road." And the TV says, "Marchers came to demand justice for unarmed African Americans. They demand an end to killings across the nation, part of a shameful pattern that has claimed the lives, particularly of young men of color." Marchers referenced past victims and a video taken by a bystander. On the TV, breaking news. Family speaks out on police shooting. You can see this black family is grieving. You might get the message that racism is only happening to black and brown people. Racism is a white person's problem, and we are all caught up in it. Here are some of the reactions of the grown-ups. Aunt says, "I can't watch the news." Mom says, "That police officer was just doing his job. They don't look comfortable." We are all caught up in racism by refusing to look at it. Aunt says, "Come away from the TV now. Look, I made your favorite." There's brownies, but what is she paying attention to? She can still hear the TV. It says, "Racial justice. We must stand up." You can face this. Understanding the truth takes courage, especially a painful truth about your own people, your own family. And Mom says in the car later, "Are you all right?" Does the girl look okay? What do you think she should say? Even people you love may behave in ways that show they think they're the good ones. And this is a really big idea. What makes a white person a good one? What's happening? You see on the street over here, there's a little black boy walking, and there's a family over there walking. And over here, the mom is locking her door as they pass and grabbing her purse. Is she being careful, or is she being biased and suspicious? Is it kind to look suspiciously at the people around you? Racism was not your idea. You don't need to defend it. You can bring your curiosity to learn about it and see what's true. And here they've arrived at a library, and Mom says, if you need me, I'll be over here, okay? Do you know where you can go in a library to find information about racial justice history? Our hero walks over here and she sees a book laying out. And it says, Our Shared History. Whose stories do you think this book tells of? It reads, in the United States of America, white people have committed outrageous crimes against Black people for 400 years. All along, every step of the way, people who love justice and love each other have been fighting back. We're inside the book now. Many white people did things they never should have done. Denied opportunity, like access to loans in order to pay for big projects. Denied housing, and this often happens through eviction and high housing costs, which is a really big problem right now. And denied voting rights. Many other white people failed to see the problem with this. They exploited the love and labor of Black women, which is often done through unfairly paid childcare and housework. Here she is saying, yes, ma'am. These choices put wealth and power into white hands, homes, and neighborhoods. Some white people joined the leaders of Black liberation. Liberation is an ongoing act of love and freedom. I won't read these, but here are some of the people that have fought for Black liberation. The book gives good examples, but who do you think of? Racism is still happening. It keeps changing and keeps staying the same. The girl has read all this information in the book. It's a lot to think about. And yet, just being here, alive in this moment, you have a chance to care about this, to connect. Who else is in this library with her? There's another family. But connecting means opening. And opening sometimes feels like breaking. Have you ever felt this? I think she feels really heavy and sad and angry. Her mom says, her car's over here, love. Mom, I don't feel so good. Uh-oh, should I pull over? I think she means tummy sick. I need to know what's going on, the girl says. Mom, what are you talking about? Girl, why didn't anyone teach me real history? I do see color. I see yours and mine and everyone's. You can't hide what's right in front of me. And the girl, angry, shouts, I know that what that police officer did was wrong. Go with your instincts on this one. Racial justice is possible, but only if we are honest with ourselves and each other. So the mom pulls the car over and says, "Okay, geez, you don't have to yell." And the girl is getting out. Mom says, "I see a playground over there. Want to get some air?" She says, "Yes." What else is on the playground? Your history is not all written yet. What do you want it to say? What do you want your actions to say? To say about what you believe, I mean. How do you think that knowledge can help you fight racism? And where do you go to learn more about the history of racism? Who inspires you about what it looks like to fight white supremacy? There's a lot of people, history is full of them, people who acted bravely to fight white supremacy, including brave Unitarian Universalists. I wonder, after you've taken your first step to fight unfairness, what is the next step? Our book has one more thing to say about this. Grow racial justice inside yourself like a bean sprout in a milk carton. Someone says, "What if it dies?" The answer is plant it again. Never stop planting justice. A strong internal sense of justice will not fail you, even when a lack of justice in the world does. I invite our children to join me now in our children's chapel room. The link is in the chat box. Thank you to Nancy. I invite everyone in joining along with our community blessing song on the next slide.
May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
And yet the dawn is ours. Before we knew it, somehow we do it. Somehow we have weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny Black girl, descended from slaves and raised by a single mother, can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge a union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division.
Thank you so much, Annabelle. Those words of Amanda Gorman's are so striking. Every time I read them, every time I hear them, I hear something new and experience something new. So thank you so much for sharing them with us today. Friends, I invite you to think all the way back to December 2019, which seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? Almost like another world beyond our imagination. So I looked up a few current events and facts that I'll share with you to just give you a little bit of context and get you back in that space. In December 2019, the House voted to impeach Trump the first time over the Russia and Ukraine scandal. In December of 2019, there were 3 major shootings, one at a small church in Texas, one at a Houston film shoot, and one in the middle of Canal Street in New Orleans. And in December of 2019, this congregation welcomed Romel, our asylum seeker, as we supported his release from a Louisiana detention center. And something else wonderful happened for us in the midst of all of that. We as a congregation also adopted the 8th principle, a principle that directly and clearly addresses anti-racism and anti-oppression, multiculturalism. Here is the exact language of that principle. We covenant to affirm and promote journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Anti-racism, anti-oppression, and multiculturalism have long been a part of the vision and justice work of Unitarian Universalism. When I was preparing for the ministry, anti-racism, anti-oppression was one of 11 competency areas for which I had to document my learning and work. It was deeply ingrained in my seminary education and has been a part of how the UUA has offered resources to congregations. And building on those deep ties that Unitarian Universalism has to the civil rights movement of the 60s, our association passed several resolutions and statements of conscience dealing with becoming an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, multicultural organization. But we did not become that organization. Not in the way that we imagined we could, not yet, anyway. We learned a lot about racism and oppression. We created extraordinary curriculum. Many books were written. Good progress was made. But we lost our focus, and funding slowed. And perhaps notably, most of our congregations did not become more multicultural and diverse. And then our own association had a major crisis involving issues of systemic racism in hiring practices. We failed. And I don't say those words with any malice or judgment, because sometimes admitting of failure is the way we find a new path forward, the way we begin to understand what truly stands before us. And we did. We began to slowly notice and name and reflect upon the deep, tangled roots of white supremacy that pervade our country and our culture and even Unitarian Universalism. We've begun to shed ourselves of that striving for perfection, of that pull to be seen as good and thus not racist, and instead turned our striving toward forging a union and a religion of purpose, embodying Amanda Gorman's words to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of humanity. So the eighth principle was born, drafted by Unitarian Universalist leaders of color as a way to renew our commitment to this work and to hold ourselves accountable to fulfilling the promise and potential of our existing principles. So I want to admit something to you and own my responsibility in how we moved the eighth principle through our voting process. I recognize that we could have done it better. We should have done it better. In hindsight, I now see the mistakes that we made. And in truth, that hindsight is helping me re-examine the process of our absentee voting as a whole. I noticed that in my own haste and impatience, in my desire for action, challenges of my personality I confront regularly, I neglected to help shape and support a broad and deep process to explore, to reflect, to share and ask questions, to learn about this principle. I didn't really stop to ask the questions about how we could provide people a place to unpack that deep, powerful language, to understand the background, the why of it all. I just went full steam ahead and mistakenly thought others were ready to do the same. But readiness is not the ideal. It's not the point. The point is this work. Not just the work of dismantling racism, but this work of living into the call of our faith requires dialogue and curiosity and deep self-exploration. It requires spiritual grounding and deepening our wells of love while honing our skills of grace, compassion, and forgiveness. And I've had the benefit of really digging into this hindsight of our process because so many other congregations are embarking on this eighth principle process, and they're reaching out to us for advice. And I tell them honestly that I wish we'd done it differently. And I also share all of my learnings from our process. And I'm delighted more congregations are coming into this space and adopting the eighth principle. And I know, as they say, hindsight is always 20/20. But here we are. However clunky our process, it happened. We committed to journeying towards spiritual wholeness, to building beloved multicultural community, to dismantling racism and other oppressions. We agreed to that, and I celebrate that. Here we are, as a people, as a faith, finally willing to lift our gaze and see what stands before us, with tears and rage, with fear and joy, with love and hope, with sacrifice and solidarity. Here we are, climbing the hill before us together. May we always keep climbing. In that pursuit of beloved multicultural community, in the hill we climb together, we pause to practice that long-held spiritual practice of generosity. We pause to look out beyond our walls to see where we might make a difference and to live our values out in the world while also giving to sustain the ministries and operations of this fellowship which we so love. We take up an offering each week to affirm that support and to offer our support to our monthly plate partner. This month, our partner congregation in Mesca, Transylvania. You can participate in our offering by going to our website at boiseuu.org and clicking Give in the right corner and filling out the donor screen as you go. 25% of our unpledged plate offering for this month of February will go to our Mesca Scholarship Fund, which helps youth from our partner congregation cover expenses for college and university. We're so grateful and thankful for all of the ways that you support the work of this congregation. Thank you for your generosity. Our offering will now be received.
It isn't right for too many falling. They say it's in the name of the greater good. Oh, we lost sight. World is getting colder. What happened to the words for which we once stood? I will stand for you. Would you stand for me? Everybody deserves to be free. I would lend a hand to you. Would you lend a hand to me? Everybody deserves to be free. It's close to 9, but I'll leave a candle burning. Your way home, won't give up the fight. Story isn't over, no. I won't let you walk on alone. I will stand for you. Would you stand for me? Everybody deserves to be free. I would lend a hand to you. Would you lend a hand to me? Everybody deserves to be free. Say, if you feel like I do, stand with me. If you hurt like I do, stand with me. Feel like I do, stand with me. If you hurt like I do, stand with me. Yeah. Think it's a shame if it gives you the blues. Oh, I'm telling you, I will stand for you. Would you stand for me? Everybody deserves to be free. And I would lend a hand to you. Would you lend a hand to me? Everybody deserves to be free. I will stand for you. Would you stand for me? Everybody
Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promise to glade the hill we climb, if only we dare. It's because being American is more than a pride we inherit, it's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust. For while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared at its inception. We do not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour. But within it, we find the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while we once asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us?
Thank you, Veronica. If, as Amanda Gorman's words suggest, being American is more than a pride we inherit, it's the past we step into, then what it means to be American lies not just in triumphs and accomplishments, but in the untold stories, in the bitter truths, in the atrocities we'd rather forget, in the catastrophes that will prevail over us if we fail to reckon with our connection to their creation. The past we step into is a past of chattel slavery, of the genocide of indigenous people, of Indian industrial schools, some of which were run by Unitarian churches. The past we step into is the past of Jim Crow and lynchings, of redlining and sunset towns, of incarceration of Black men at astonishing rates, of unequal justice. The past we step into is a past of reservations without resources, of violent colonization, of unchecked capitalism and corporate greed, of environmental racism, of embedded structures of supremacy and domination we don't even see. That's a lot to take in, and I invite you to just sit with it for a moment. For years, I would struggle when faced with these hard truths of our past. I would resist and insist I had no part in them. They were not my truths. I didn't create them or participate in them. I was a good person with progressive politics. And I would feel the guilt rise and the shame expand and try to dismiss any and all discomfort. It happens to all of us, and if that happens to you sometimes, especially when we engage in this work, I get it. And I invite you to just sit with those feelings as they arise, rather than try to tune them out or dismiss them. Just notice, observe, non-judgmentally if you can. Just be in that discomfort, because at the center of all of that, at the center of the discomfort and the challenge and the conflict, that is where compassion and conviction are born and strengthened. Because on this hill we climb, Amanda Gorman also reminds us that being American is about the past we step into and how we repair it. How we repair it is just as much a part of this American identity and experiment? How will we not only ensure freedom and equality, but truly dismantle those systems and structures that get in the way of our collective equality and liberation? We read, we learn, we self-reflect, we caucus in our identity groups, we receive feedback with grace and gratitude, we stop dismissing and defending, we locate ourselves in the midst of these oppressive structures and we ask, what can we do differently? What needs to crumble so that we can re-envision, rebuild, and recenter a whole new paradigm? Here are some ideas that have been churning for me in the past year or so. A justice system based not on punishment and imprisonment, but on restorative practices, repairing harm and addressing root causes. And I know that that is a huge system to try to imagine how we as individuals might restructure it, but we can learn about the practices of transformative justice and bring them into our own lives and begin to practice them out in the world and in the spaces we inhabit. We can join and support mutual aid groups, community efforts helping those in need directly based on models of mutual giving and receiving without hierarchical or organizational structures. Also seeking to address those root causes of inequity. We can support and adopt models of collaborative, partnership-based leadership built on consensus and models of collective decision-making. We can push ourselves to interrupt moments of racism and harm when we witness them, even when it's uncomfortable. We can call each other in and call each other up into covenant, into right relationship, to belovedness again and again and again, and allow ourselves to make mistakes and seek to repair the harm when we do. We can keep doing the inner work, the spiritual work, so that we can show up in the bigger work of dismantling as our best selves. We can continue inviting each other into an irresistible future, to imagine a more beautiful world our hearts know is possible, and to name the visions and commitments it will take to get us there. We can, as Gorman writes, offer ourselves hope and laughter along the way. We welcome this era of just redemption as heirs of this moment, this time, this invitation, this terrifying hour in which we author a new chapter. I am excited to be co-creators of that new chapter together. May it be so. In the authoring of our new chapter, in the work of showing up to dismantling racism, we are also invited to listen, to show up and share the depths of our own lives and bear witness to the joys and sorrows of those in this community. That is how we strengthen and forge those bonds of connection that will serve us out in the wider world. So we open up a moment each week to share the joys and sorrows, our joys and sorrows, together. You are invited to share your joys and sorrows in the chat as we receive the beauty and healing of music with We Will Not Stop Singing by the Chapin sisters featuring the First Unitarian Brooklyn Choir.
We will not stop
We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along, till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along, till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along.
We will not stop praying. We will not stop praying. We will not stop praying till we all can get along, till the world can sing our song. We will not stop shouting. We will not stop shouting. We will not stop shouting. Shouting right from wrong till the world can sing our song. Till the world can sing. Till the world can sing. Till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing. Till the world can sing. Till the world can sing along. We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing till the world can hear our song, till the world can sing along.
Thank you, friends, for sharing your joys and sorrows. We send you light and love and blessings so that we all know we do not journey alone. We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be. A country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left with. Every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the windswept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover. In every known nook of our nation and every corner called our country, our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, For there is always light, if we're only brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
In a recent book titled Cast, the author, Isabel Wilkerson, says that living in 21st century America is like living in an old house. For me, this metaphor is like watching an old movie that I like. Every time I see it, I see something new. But as I think back to the old houses I've lived in, I'm reminded of three things about old houses. The first is that they always need work. It seems like there's always something to do. Sometimes the work is small, a faucet that leaks, a door that sticks, a light that doesn't work. Sometimes the work is big, a crack in the foundation, lead in the paint, or wiring that is no longer up to code. But whatever it is, all of that work will require time, skill, and resources, often including other people, which leads to the second point. All of that work is important. There are a couple reasons for this. One is that every bit of the work, big or small, makes the house better. Can I say a more perfect house? The second reason is that I like the house. I don't always agree with the decisions the homeowners association makes. And I wish sometimes that some of my neighbors would clean up their property. But I like the house a lot. It's worth the investment. And this leads to the third, and I think most important point. While I'm living in it, it's my house. Whatever work is to be done is my work to do. I want to understand the history of the house, not to blame anyone or to forgive anyone, but I want to acknowledge that house, that history, to learn from it. What work has been done to the house in the past? And I want to recognize the challenges and opportunities the house presents me with. I want to concentrate on the present and the future, making the house more livable now and better for anyone who might live in it in the future. So back to living in 21st century America. This old house needs work. It always has. It always will. Big or small, the work will require time, skill, and resources, including other people. And all of that work is important. And as a current resident, I'm part owner of this old house. The work to be done is my work to do. So I think the question for me going forward is, what can I do to make this old house better for the people living in it now and for people who will live in it in the future? All of the people. To put that another way, what can I do to better live the eighth principle? Thank you.
We Unitarians started gathering in Boise in the early 1900s. We joined the UUA in 1961, and in 1968 became Boise Unitarian Universalist Fellowship.
Over decades, we, the congregation, have reevaluated, redefined, re-envisioned, and reinvented ourselves as times and conscience called us to do.
Now is one of those times. Time to vividly see the future we want and begin to be it.
We set our course when we adopted our eighth principle. to journey towards spiritual wholeness, to build a diverse multicultural community, to act to dismantle racism and other oppressions.
So we ask, what do we need to do to live this principle in our everyday booth life? How do we make ourselves fully expressive of beloved community? How do we see what doesn't yet exist and prepare to become it?
Living the eighth is simple, though not easy. We simply let go of what closes others out and courageously build what welcomes others.
We walk through our congregational home, room by room, to see what welcomes and reflects a diversity of guests. What needs updating? What has served its purpose and is ready for retirement?
We look at governance, worship, staffing, our building and sanctuary, outdoor sanctuary, social justice, religious education, generosity and fundraising, congregational care, and communication.
We look through the lens of the future as others will see us.
So that when our future friends arrive here in their amazing, diverse multiness, we say something like, welcome, we've been preparing, tell us what you think.
Won't you join Reverend Sarah and the racial justice community in living the eighth, starting today?
Every person, team, and committee at Booth is warmly invited to join this congregational envisioning.
Our congregational envisioning of a thriving, striving community that embraces equity, diversity, and inclusion in every aspect of our congregational life.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom and Eileen and Dawn, for your words, for your ministry, for your dedication. I am excited about the visions that we will create together and that the commitments that we will name and claim for what might be so and who we will become. As we wrap up our worship service today, we have heard so many beautiful words. And so many beautiful words have been prayers in and of themselves. So for our prayer time this morning, I want to invite us into a time of silent meditation and reflection, to ground ourselves in the invitation for who we will become, in the imagining for the commitments we will make, and for that beautiful world we know is possible, that our hearts can see. Let us breathe and reflect in a time of shared silence together. May we keep expanding the journey toward spiritual wholeness. May we live into the call of our eighth principle and the call of this faith. May we lift every voice. Amen.
Civil rights activist James Weldon Johnson wrote Lift Their Voice and Sing as a poem, which was set to music by his brother John Roseman Johnson in 1899. The song is now known as the Black National Anthem in America. It is a protest, a hymn, and a prayer of profound significance for our people. We lift every voice and sing to express ourselves. We lift every voice to show that we have strength in numbers and we will not be silent. We lift every voice and sing to be lifted, liberated, and free.
Freedom, the power to determine action without restraint. Freedom, the absence of or release from ties, obligations, or restrictions. Freedom, the ease or facility of movement or action. Freedom, frankness or boldness in manner or speech. Freedom, a political right. Until we are all free, none of us is free. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the roaring sea. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chasing rod. Those in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood Thou who hast brought us thus far along the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. So let's not be from what God will be Let's cast hearts drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadow beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Ooh, wasn't that extraordinary? I'm not sure I took a breath that whole time. Friends, do stick around and stay with us for our quilt raffle and for our Living the Eighth conversations. But I invite you to place your hand over your heart for our closing blessing. A new dawn blooms. May we keep reaching for what stands before us. Keep repairing the past we step into. Keep re-envisioning a beautiful, irresistible future that beckons every one of us, that lifts every voice, that never stops singing. All worthy, all beloved, all of us free, because all are free. Amen. Okay, before we go into our breakout rooms for our Living the Eighth conversation and our Inquirer series, hang out here just a moment. We are going to draw the winning raffle ticket for this beautiful quilt behind me. Jem is here to help me, so I am putting on my mask. All right, everybody. Here's all of our beautiful raffle tickets. We're going to mix them around. There's all your names, all your names, all your names. Only one winner. Okay, Jem. Ooh, thank you, yes. I don't know. I take it. Okay. Patty Nakaoki! You finally win the quilt! All those years working on the action, you're the big winner. See, I'll prove it to you right there. Patty Nakaoki. Congratulations, Patty! Woohoo! Thank you, Jem. I know Patty was, like many of us, hoping and dreaming, hoping and dreaming, hoping and dreaming. So here is the invitation for how we would like to structure our conversations. I have identified the breakout room with a category of congregational life. Those of you who are interested in being part of our Inquirer series, just stay right here. There's a breakout room specifically for Inquirers too. And so when you get invited to your breakout room, you'll see the host is inviting you to breakout room, and it will say worship and music or small groups and RE. And so we're inviting you in those groups to begin a visioning conversation about what commitments we might make to living our 8th principle this coming year and into the future. I'm going to share with you some questions that you can use to guide your conversation in the chat. You can access the chat from your small breakout rooms. But you're not required to stay with those questions. They might help spur some thinking. But remember, this is a visioning process, and it is okay to dream big and to brainstorm and to worry less about obstacles and more about possibilities. And Inquirers, for those that are doing Inquirers, when you get that breakout room invitation, if it doesn't say Inquirers, click later, and then I'll make sure you get to the Inquirers room. Some of you Inquirers, I think,